Here we go, new sheriff in town, baby. Let's get it.
Stand up to the jump. What is it, your first time? I feel like you may be out of your right mind, but let me take a second. Let me break it down for you. Stand up.
What's going on, YouTube world? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks once again for tuning in. I'm Dusty. You guessed it. This is the Shred Academy. Is it a jump? Is it a drop? No, it's a step-down jump, which is essentially a jump and a drop put together, but the lips of these jumps really offer no transition to help aid you in getting from point A to point B. Here's what I mean.
Step-down jumps are very different from normal mountain bike jumps. A normal mountain bike jump has a lip with a lot of transition that gives the rider height in the air to create an arc to make it to the other side. Step-down jumps, no matter how big, usually have no transition to the lip. They're a very flat takeoff. Your airtime is determined by the height difference from your takeoff to your landing. Even though the lip of a step-down is normally flat, the flight path of a step-down is never a straight line. Since these jumps have no real transition to aid us in our flight path across the gap, the rider is gonna have to pilot the bike in a way that it aids the bike in taking an arced flight path from one side to the other.
Now today, we're gonna be looking at two step-down jumps at Ride Cayuga in Hendersonville, North Carolina. So why don't we check those out to get started?
The first step down we're going to be looking at is on Hemlock Epoch. And it's not all that big. From tip of the takeoff to the knuckle of the landing is only about 12 to 15 feet. But if we look at the lip for this jump, there's really no transition to help aid you get from here to there. And there really is no run-up for this jump. As you come out of a berm, maybe have enough room for 2 pedal strokes, and then off you go. Let's go check out the landing. The landing to this step down is actually pretty flat and goes directly into a right-hand turn, which then proceeds into another small little step down jump into another berm. So being in control when you land is crucial.
So that's our first step-down jump. Now let's go take a look at a much larger step-down jump over on natural selection.
Second, we're going to be taking a look at this drop. The takeoff is a lot taller. The distance is about 20 feet from takeoff to landing. Now let's go check out the takeoff and we'll check out the landing. As we walk up next to this lip, we can see that there is no lip. It almost runs downhill. So the lip is going to provide no arc to the landing. We do have a pretty good run up. You can see my bike there. Comes down. Somebody's oh no skid marks. This doesn't give it justice for sure. So we've got our takeoff right here. And that goes into a very steep landing. Pretty tight trees, no room to really stop, so you want to land in control.
So what's the secret to step-down jumps? Well, let me tell you, it's not speed. The first thought in your mind when you come to a jump like either one of these step-downs should not be, how fast can I go off the jump? Speed is just an additive. You're adding speed to whatever form you're going to use off the lip.
The secret to any step-down jump is being able to create a small arc to get you across from one side to the other. Even with step-downs that are done at high speed, an arc still needs to be created. And the Jhop is the perfect form for us to be able to create different levels of arcs off the lip.
So the first thought you should be having is, what type of arc do I need to get to point A to point B? Now, how do we get that arc? 2 ways to leave flat ground. You got the TwoWheeled Lift and the Jhop. Now quickly, let me tell you why you don't want to use the two-wheeled lift.
We all know that I'm against the two-wheeled lift, but especially on step-down jumps. Let's find out why. Using the two-wheeled lift usually requires a big body weight preload, forcing the suspension down, and then unweighting the bike completely all at one time, taking your hips from being preloaded to straight up over the bottom bracket. This does a few things. This unweights the whole bike all at one time. It's not going to unweight the front tire while you ride the rear tire and then explode off the rear tire. You're unweighting both tires as the front tire leaves, which increases the distance you actually have to travel by a full bike length. The second reason I don't recommend the two-wheeled lift is because of the increased risk of a dead sailor. This is caused by the rider exploding completely upward, and their arms will become completely extended, and the weight of the bike will prohibit them from going any higher, which stops their motion from going up. Now, this sudden halt in motion in the air is what causes someone to suddenly feel like, oh, I'm falling to the side, or I'm falling to the other side. With the two-wheeled lift, you really have no ability to take the bike with you. You're just going to get a sudden jerk, and then as you're in the air and you're trying to bring the bike up to you, you're going to bring yourself down to the bike, which isn't helping create any arc across the jump. It's actually causing you to fall quicker. The third reason we want to stay away from this two-wheeled lift is a lack of control in the air. When you use the two-wheeled lift, you're separated completely from the bike the whole time. This separation is only wanted as you're kind of getting ready to impact for the landing so that you can use your arms and legs as added shock absorbers. But instead, with the two-wheeled lift, you're kind of just floating along in the air, not being able to do anything, especially with such a flat lip. You may feel comfortable jumping this way, but I guarantee eventually it's going to come back and bite you, whether it be a dead sailor or landing really harsh, getting squirrely, going off the trail, or going OTB. The last but most important thing the two-wheeled lift does not provide is any level of varied arcs off of jumps. All your energy goes into this 1 second here, which doesn't really allow you to create a higher front wheel lift to create a larger arc. You're hoping that you can pick the bike up to you as high as you jump while the bike's actually stopping you from jumping. Pretty counterintuitive.
Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about that Jhop off of these jumps. Now, the Jhop is meant to get us off the ground, but don't forget, the Jhop gives us different levels of pop. So how do we approach these? Let's go check it out.
Earlier I said speed is not the determining factor. It's not the secret, and I believe that, but I also know speed is important. It's necessary. But usually speed is given to you by the features prior to the feature you're trying to hit. So if you're not adequately riding the trail prior to the feature you're thinking about hitting, you probably aren't coming in with enough speed. Now, that being said, you should always do a few run-ups to gauge how much speed you have. Now, once you do that, you're gonna probably fall in a range. You're gonna either be at the low side where you're just gonna be barely making it and probably casing the jump, and then you have your high side, which you're gonna be almost overshooting the landing. Now, where you fall inside this range of speed is gonna determine the amount of arc you need to make it to the other side. Once you come into these features, you usually have a split second to determine how much arc you're going to create to make it to the other side based on the speed you're bringing in to the jump itself. Now, I said the secret to step downs is creating these different arcs, but what's the secret to creating the arcs? Now, I said earlier that the two-wheeled lift is not the way to do this. Let me show you why the Jhop is the secret to creating these different style arcs. How does the Jhop provide different variations of arc? It's pretty simple. Depending on how far we put our body into these counterweight explosion positions, how high we take our hips over the top tube, are all going to determine how high our arc goes, which is super important. I have till about right here to decide how big of an arc I need to create to make it to the other side with the speed that I have given to me. Now, as I approach about a foot before the edge of the lip, I'm going to shift my body weight into the rear third of the bike, and this is going to create a front wheel lift. Now, this front wheel lift will then put all my weight on this rear tire as my front tire continues to travel up at the same angle as the transition, or at the angle I've decided it needs to go at all the way back here. Now, once my front tire leaves and all my weight is still on that rear tire, I'm going to be traveling forward, and then about a foot or two before the edge of the lip, I'm going to then explode upwards, which is going to give me the height of my arc. Now, remember that your bike can't go any higher than your hips, and you actually don't want to separate yourself from the bike a whole lot because you don't want to become a dead sailor. So in this example, I don't need a lot of height to my arc, so I just bring my hips square back over my top tube, and this is going to allow my rear tire to follow the path of my front tire. I'm going to be back inside the cockpit of the bike, and that allows me to guide that front tire down towards the landing and extend my body and land smoothly and ride away, ready for the next feature. Now, due to the speed and height of this step down, I need to create a taller arc compared to something like this step down, where it's much taller. I do have a lot more speed, so it's my job just to pilot the bike safely to the other side. Now, let's remember that if you just sheerly ride off of a drop, your front wheel is going to fall. You need to somehow make sure that front wheel keeps planing straight out or slightly up as your rear tire continues to travel forward. Now, when your front tire unweights, you surely don't want to unweight the rear tire, because what does that do? That adds a whole nother bike length to the gap you already need to clear. So again, the Jhop is not only useful in creating different level arcs depending on your body position and effort put into it, it's also going to allow you to almost take away a full bike length to the gap that you need to clear. So it does the exact opposite as the two-wheeled lift. Now, as well, this Jhop gives you complete control in the air. You're staying near your bike, you're able to roll it forward and guide that front wheel down towards the landing so you can land as smooth as possible. If we move back to the smaller step down, which requires a bigger arc due to the slower speeds and lower takeoff height, we need to pilot the bike in a way to create that arc while still having control in the air. Now, if you look at my body position on the bike here versus the two-wheeled lift here, the Jhop gives you a much better body position to control the bike in the air, which is also going to control how effortless your landing is and how harsh your landing is. So that's it. The secret to step down jumps is creating an arc based on the speed you're bringing into the feature to ensure that you reach it to the other side safely. And the secret to creating those arcs is using the Jhop. And not only does it help you create different size arcs, it also helps cut down the distance of the gap, gives you more control in the air, and as well provides a more controlled landing. Sounds pretty good to me.
Well, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the content. And maybe now you know how you should approach coming to jumps like this that really have no lip. Are they a jump or are they a drop? Step down jump? Sure. Yeah. If you did enjoy the content, please make sure to let me know in the comments. And always make sure to like, share with your friends, and make sure you're all subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel and see it continue to grow and help other people, please become a Patreon. The lowest level of Patreonage is $5 a month. It's 37 cents a day. Doesn't seem like a lot, but as it adds up, it really helps me pay my bills so I can focus on creating this content and making it concise and still entertaining. If you really liked this particular video and like to leave me a gallon of gas tip, please use my PayPal link in the description. Finally, I've got some merch, limited amount left. Thank you guys who have purchased the merch. I hope you are enjoying it. The link for that is in the description as well. Now, if I don't see you to the next episode, please make sure to ride safe, ride hard, be kind to everyone, not just on the trail, but at home as well. We're all in this together. If you do see me on the trail, make sure to come say hello. I'd love to shoot the shenanigans with you, find out about your ride, maybe have a beer, and just find out why you love biking. But until then, guys, rubber side down, and I'll see you next time.